Thanks everyone for joining. I'm sure we'll have some more folks trickle in. My name is Susanna Ramos. I actually lead our managed services team at Coffee Dunn. For those of you who are not as familiar with C&D, we've been a 12 plus year partner with Microsoft, focused on marketing. That's been our anchor, but we really span the whole CE suite, and the goal is pretty simple. Coffee Dunn just wants to make sure that we are in a position to help you solve your customer engagement problems. And so part of that is making sure that you're really getting the most out of the technology that you're using today, including CI journeys. And so that'll be the focus for today's discussion. We have assembled a panel of experts, both from Coffee Dunn and of course our friends at Microsoft. We'll do some quick intros around the horn, and then Vinay, Nikolai, I'll give you a few seconds just to talk a little bit about the evolution of the product. We're going to spend most of the time focused on Q&A. Now, there is a Q&A button if you're joining us live today. Feel free to ask any of the questions through that Q&A, and we'll get those posed to the team. We also have some questions that we were able to get from clients and other Dynamics 365 Customer Insights Journeys customers. And so we've got that list, and we'll make sure that we go through that today as well. If for some reason time doesn't allow and we're unable to get to your question, we will certainly reach back out and follow up. If you think of additional questions after today's call, reach out to us. You can find us at hello@coffee-dunn.com. All right, with that, let me turn it over for some quick intros. We'll start with the Coffee Dunn team, starting with Caroline.
Sorry, took me a second to get off mute. Hey guys, I am Caroline Faraday. I am a consulting manager here at Coffee Dunn. I have been with the team since 2018, so I really have seen the evolution of the real-time and outbound marketing application since Outbound started in 2017, maybe the beginning of 2018. And my role here at Coffee Dunn is I assist and lead primarily marketing implementation. So getting everything set up from kind of end to end. And I will pass it to Tyler.
Thanks, Caroline. My name is Tyler McLean. I serve in a similar role to Caroline. I started working with outbound marketing in 2021 as a client, and then became a consultant on the product and have been along for the ride with the CI journeys evolution and CI data evolution since then. So really excited to answer questions today that you all have.
All right. You introduce yourself, Susanna?
Yeah, no, go right ahead. Yeah, I've already introduced myself. Go for it.
Okay, no worries. Hi, everyone. My name is Vinay Dio. I'm from Microsoft, product manager, working in the Dynamics 365 Customer Insights product here. I joined this team about 4.5 years back now, and been through the whole evolution of the real-time journey. So I have the honor of making sure Outbound is faded away. So that's the focus I have right now in my role. So happy to be here and answer your questions.
All right, looks like my name is next. My name is Nikolai Popov, and I'm a fast track solution architect, working from the engineer side. You can treat me here as a subject matter expert on the real-time marketing and outbound marketing. So I'm with Microsoft like for around 3 years already, but working with Dynamics since 2008. So I've been through the evolution of their early adoption of marketing when it was not even the marketing, and now it's outbound marketing and real-time marketing. So happy to join this team and answer all of your challenging questions.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks everyone for those intros. Well, like I said, let's start from the top. I think it's important for those of you who have either been using the product for just a couple of months or even just a couple of years. It's gone through quite an evolution, including the introduction of real-time journeys just a few years ago. So Vinay, I don't know if you want to maybe talk a little bit about just the evolution of the product and how we got to where we are today.
Sure. As I said, I joined the team when the real-time journey was just being thought about. So I've been with it from the very beginning. Uh, the premise is very simple, really. All the surveys and all the research even then was showing that our customers, not the one who use the marketing department, but their customers, the brand customer, consumers, people who ultimately work with, their behaviors have been changing for quite a while. They want to be communicated on a one-on-one personalized manner. The old ways of the megaphone kind of uh, communication, you have one message and you broadcast to thousands and millions of people, isn't going to work anymore in the new situation. So that's what the the pivot the product needed to do to make sure it's meeting the need of all the our new customer requirements. Along with that also came the personalization, as I talked about, was all the departments of any company are working in silos, and they are not able to deliver an experience to their customers that's actually integrated. So the left hand doesn't know the right hand kind of a thing. My favorite example is a real example from a printer company where the customer is having trouble with the printer printing and they have a service ticket open, but the marketing team is funneling a lot of offers about new ink and whatnot. And that's the worst moment possible to do such messaging. And that happens because of all these silos, this data and apps have built different departments using different apps. So that is what Dynamics vision has always been, to combine, create a integrated profile of your customer and work in an integrated manner. And real time was conceived to solve that silo breaking problem as well as to react in real time, so that you're not waiting for a day or two after somebody joins or does something or visits a page to create that segment and then do the communication. You do the communication in the moment when it's right. So somebody walks into a store, if it's a retail store, and connect to the Wi-Fi, they are a loyalty member, you should be able to push a notification right then about the things you are interested in is on sale or whatever the message may be. So things like that, doing in real time, that's the real pivot. Segment-based journeys are still needed and they are also included. So real time didn't really lose that thing. It just added more things. So that's the pivot. That's the kind of a vision we had, and we have done that evolution. And real time scales much better. It's like Outbound can never meet that scale. It has all the new functionality like copilots and generative AI and all the kind of things. All the investments are happening there, has been happening there for the last 2.5 years now. So the time has come where really the Outbound needs to be uh, kind of said goodbye to, and everybody should really move to real time. So that's where we
I,
are.
lo- I love that, Vinay. It's really, and it's pretty aligned with kind of the evolution of marketing in general, right? So you
Yeah.
start with this kind of spray and pray or batch and blast, and you start to evolve to more of these kind of point in time audiences. And the natural next step is what we talk a lot about with our clients is, meeting your customer where they're at. And so if there's an opportunity to use these kind of signature moments, certain triggers or behaviors or interactions that are activities that are just happening naturally as part of that engagement, to be able to kind of use that or leverage that insight to directly send personalized communication, I think is pretty powerful. But a natural evolution, and again, pretty aligned with how marketing itself has evolved.
That's it.
I love that. All right, well, let's jump into the questions. Like I said, we've got a list here of some questions that we were able to get from clients and other customers. Definitely feel free to put your Q&A, put any of your questions in that Q&A there as well, and we'll make sure to get those addressed. But I'm going to start with the $1,000,000 question. And Vinay, Nikolai, this may be for you. June 30th of this year is the deadline. That's the one that's been published. That's the one that's been talked about when it comes to the removal of Outbound. Is it a real deadline?
Right, I'll take it. Yes, it is a real deadline. We are all working towards that, and uh, every customer we hope is also working towards that. Uh, so there comes some related question to that. So what really actually happens on June 30th is probably what the crux of the thing. again, we are Microsoft. We will not do anything crazy like cut up everybody off on that day. That's not what we do. So, what will happen really is that the use of outbound will be discouraged, and you'll have friction in use. You will not be able to kind of create new entities in outbound anymore. We will not kind of let the current campaigns run and finish, but basically pushing the customers in a mode where they can't create new campaigns. The old one will run and they will finish. So ultimately, everybody reaches a state there is nothing much to be done in outbound. That's the outline of how we want to get there. Obviously, we are absolutely aware that for a lot of customers, this is I mean, for all of them, business critical thing. So we will continue to work and monitor and check and do this over a period of time, not on instantly on a day. And we'll do it customer by customer. So those folks who have transitioned, who have reduced usage or finished usage, will start removing outbound for them. So that's the approach we'll take. But June 30th deadline is real. After that, we do have the right to start curtailing things, like we'll reduce the segment refresh rate. Segments that are not in use, will stop refreshing them altogether. So we'll start cutting services like that because it shouldn't really be used beyond that date unless you tell us why, or is there a legitimate reason.
Yes, you talked a bit about the assets, right? So, obviously some changes around segment refreshes and the like. What does that mean for the actual data?
Good question. No, so data, we have no intention of removing, deleting any data. It's things that are stored in Dataverse are your data and they will remain there. So even though we may hide outbound from your sitemap, hide meaning it will go away, it will not be accessible, the UI may not be there. The data, the entities created will still remain in Dataverse, and you should be able to access them like a normal Dataverse table. You may not, since we have removed the UI for the outbound, you may not see them in the nice kind of you through the UI like a reports, but the data will still be there that you can access.
So you mentioned not being able to directly access it from the UI. So does that, I think one of the questions that we got was if this means that the kind of work area for outbound just disappears from the nav. Will it affect any of the other configuration on the sitemap?
Um, so the outbound area and all its sitemap entries, that will go away. There are a lot of settings that are outbound only. So some parts of settings will disappear because those settings do not make sense anymore. And that's the settings is a shared page between real time and outbound. So there are some settings that are common, some are only real time, and some are outbound. So that's the kind of delineation we are working on to make sure we separate these things correctly and remove the settings that are outbound only. Event management module is shared, so that UI will remain, even though the events, when you create them, they are either created in outbound or created in real time. So there is a dual personality kind of a complex there. So events will only be created in real time after that point. Events created in outbound will still remain and we can finish. And that's another area how people can slowly wean away from that. So all new events should be in real time. Old ones, as they finish, die off and we close them and forget about them. I hope that answered the question. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I want to pause though on the questions. Actually, I've got a poll that I want to launch for everyone. And it's let's get a sense for where you are in your transition to real time. Are you just getting started or is it in progress? Are you nearing the end of that transition or are you not even sure where to begin? I'll give folks a few seconds to enter their responses. See a couple for just getting started, in progress. Give you guys another second or two. Not even sure where to begin. We've got a question on that, so you're in the right place. I'll give you a few more seconds to put in responses. All right. Okay. Well, feel free to add your responses here in a bit, but it looks like we've got a fair mix of folks who are either just getting the transition party started for real-time journeys, and are maybe still in progress or not even sure where to even get started. So, all right, let's jump a little bit deeper. I want to talk a little bit about segments. We got a question on this, and it's more around kind of how they'll work in the meantime. So the question was, will I still be able to use outbound segments in journeys between now and June 30th? So Tyler, Caroline, I don't know if you guys want to take that one.
Yeah, I can take it, Tyler. So yes, outbound journeys or outbound segments you can still use until that June deadline. Those are also available within the real-time journeys work area. You can either choose to start from a trigger, a real-time segment, or a outbound segment. What will happen after that June 30 deadline is that segments will basically become static after that date, meaning that it's not going, basically your members that are in those segments, that is going to be your static audience from after that date. So obviously you will still be able to use that asset and use those segments, but it's definitely our recommendation if you have the ability to start transitioning those to real-time segments or dipping your toes into utilizing triggers, that would be our recommendation.
Okay. Tyler, any color to add to that?
One of the limitations with continuing to use outbound segments during your transition time period is that you can only start a journey with you can only start a one-time journey with one outbound marketing segment. For real-time segments, you have the ability to add up to 10 segments so that if you are a customer that utilizes multiple segments to start journeys in outbound, you might want to start looking at transitioning those earlier to real time because real time does have that functionality as well, but it is limited to real time segments only.
Yeah, and one addition here, we just recently introduced the segment migration tool. So previously we had only email migration from outbound marketing to real-time marketing, and for those who are struggling in terms of like, oh, we have a huge segments and we don't want to put their manual effort to migrate them. So going forward from the February release, you have an ability to do the migration using this tool. Yeah, so we hope that this will help you to force your transition.
Nice. Okay. Next question is on journeys. So it looks like I've got a couple of questions on journeys, actually. The first one is, what happens to active journeys on June 30th? So, Vinay, I think you got a little bit into this, but if you can give us a little more color, what happens?
Yeah, so again, our intent is not to kind of force stop journeys on June 30th. So journeys that are active and running will continue to run and kind of do the function so there is no business interruption. But as I said, we are looking to create friction and kind of discourage use. So you may not be able to publish new journeys after that date. You will not be able to kind of create new journeys after that date. So things will start clamping down. But existing journeys that you already have and running will continue to run. And there is, again, in full transparency, we are still figuring out what to do with recurring journeys who will just keep running and have recurrences continue to run after that. Again, the current thinking is we'll give them a grace period for a couple of recurrences within a month or two after June 30th, and then we'll stop recurrences to happen. So they will come. My point being, it's not June 30th, but there will come a point soon after that where we'll say no more running of anything and we'll start clamping things down. But our whole intent is customers get to that point on their own without us forcing them to do that.
So I know we've talked about, maybe like the one-off journeys or the shorter ones. Obviously, in addition to those, there are the evergreen journeys. So the other question that I see around journeys, and Nikolai, I don't know if maybe you want to take this one. How does the deadline, the changes, how does this apply to the evergreen journeys? So those kind of standing long-term journeys, multi-touch point journeys.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's kind of a combination what just Vinay said and what Caroline already touched in terms of the segmentation, what's going on. So, for instance, let's take as a real example because sometimes we see customers set up evergreen journeys for their year-long period. Like we know the limitation is 360 something 65 days for the long-run journeys. And if those journeys are based on their dynamic segment, and looks like most of those are set up based on the dynamic segment because there is no need to do the same communication for the same customers. So if we are talking about the dynamic segments, and Caroline mentioned like they're not going to be refreshed, so it will be basically their static segment. So your evergreen journey will be just active with no activities there because you will not get the new members on that journey. But whomever is already there, they will proceed and continue towards their kind of to finish line of their journeys. So in this case, the best transition path would be to move to the real-time marketing and utilize the trigger-based journeys based on your logic, or if it's really necessary to replicate the same segment, dynamic segments, and replicate the same logic for your journeys. But we still pushing towards the trigger-based journey because it's more reliable and more feature and more adaptable for any business case and any business scenarios. In terms of the static segment, if you just push the journey for 100 people and you have millions of waiting tiles, like wait for 5 days, wait for 30 days, and send the same emails. So yes, those are going to continue, but as Vinay said, we trying to make you happy and rely on your responsibility to move those type of the journey to the real-time marketing. So if we see a lot of usage of this, yes, definitely we are going to communicate maybe separately to those customers. But yeah, go through your journey logic and see how it can be moved to their real-time marketing. Hope this answers this question.
Awesome. No, I think that was helpful. Okay, so we've talked about kind of the one-off journeys. We've talked about evergreen. I'm going to segue a little bit and get into events because I know there's a lot of really good stuff that's coming down the pike related to events. I want to talk about the roadmap here in a little bit, but we did get a few of those questions related to events and event communication. So the first one is around just events in general. Has real-time events caught up to Outbound? Tyler, Caroline, I don't know if either of you maybe want to take
Yep.
this one.
Yeah. So I can start and then Tyler obviously jump in. For the most part, in our opinion, we do definitely think real-time events have caught up to Outbound. I think the February release, the portals piece hit. Custom fields I know are, I believe, on the roadmap for March. Waitlist is coming, I think, in May. I would say for the most part, it's definitely caught up. I would say the exception there are paid events, and I know that Microsoft is feverishly working, and that is also on the future roadmap for the paid events piece.
Okay. Tyler, any color?
I think that if you are a client that is utilizing events today, if you are waiting on one of those features that Caroline just mentioned, you should start migrating all of your communications, your journeys to real-time emails, real-time journeys, real-time segments. You should be migrating those over so that just the event piece is still what's left in Outbound. Additionally, you should identify all of your events that potentially have a registration period that will open after the removal of outbound marketing and figure out how far in advance you want to build those events. As Microsoft releases those features, they are additive. So you might want to wait until you might want to wait until custom fields comes to build events that are going to require custom fields for real time. Or waitlist comes to start building those events. Wait till closer to the period where that functionality is being released to build those events if you have that, if you have that luxury. I know not everyone will have that luxury.
Yeah.
We really are also recommending that, like, if you have an event in October, don't start building it until you absolutely have to start promoting it, because you want to wait for, again, that feature delivery. And especially if those events require payment, that is on the future roadmap, but the delivery is still being defined. So you'll want to wait as long as possible to potentially transition those events. And if you are using the payment feature, it probably would be good to get in touch with the Microsoft team. We have some of those members here just to make sure that they're aware that you are utilizing that functionality.
And the only thing that I would add is that if you are waiting for some of like the waitlisting, the custom registration fields, and you don't have the ability to wait or you don't want to be in that time crunch, we have come up with workarounds. There are workarounds available for those two specific areas that we could definitely assist with.
I'll add a little bit to that. I think, it sounds like you guys are saying, look, you don't necessarily need to build everything out or start executing right away. Maybe give yourself a little bit of time. That doesn't mean that the planning can't start happening today, right? So you've got a lot of runway to be able to start architecting what those journeys should look like, determine where you can leverage things like triggers and the like, right? So a lot of those event planning considerations you can actually start doing well before they're getting built in the system. Okay. I think, Tyler, you maybe started to touch on this one a little bit. The next question we have is more like a scenario. So it says, I have an event coming up around the transition deadline. Emails are being sent from Outbound. What should I do?
Um, in this scenario, Susanna, the event's already live for registration, or you're getting ready to launch it?
I'm not sure. Maybe we can talk about kind of both paths.
Okay. Yeah, so if it's already live for registration, and it's a long registration period, there's a potential that you could transition the journey to real time, get the real time one built out, get the communications built out, and then sort of stop the outbound and let the real time one run. Anybody that's in the outbound one would finish out, and then you transition to the real-time one if you do have sort of like a registration response email that's being sent out or a series of invitations. If you haven't built it yet, again, there shouldn't be anything that's preventing you today from switching to real-time journeys and emails at minimum for events. Those two things should be easier transitions. There's an email migration tool to help migrate your emails, like Nikolai mentioned earlier. There's some new features and functionality that becomes available with real-time emails that you didn't have in outbound emails that make events a little more friendly to the email designer as well. Lots of new benefits that we've seen as we've been diving through them for customers. So definitely that's how we would recommend you approach the scenario, whether you have it live already or if you're getting ready to make it live. At minimum, you should make that transition. And if you haven't made it live and you're not waiting for custom fields or wait lists or payments, try and make this event your pilot and use the real-time event registration forms, the real-time event, and everything all in the real-time space.
Nice. Okay, I want to pause here for a second. I've got another poll, and it's about your biggest worry. So I know a couple of you have not yet started or you're kind of in the process, but want to hear, what's your biggest worry when it comes to the move to real-time journeys? So is it the data? Is it having to rebuild existing campaigns, integration worries, adapting your existing journeys, or is it something else entirely? I'll give you a few seconds to integration with other systems. Okay. See that come in. What else? We've got integration with other systems. We talked a little bit about data, so I hope we've allayed any concerns about that. So the data is not going anywhere. What other worries? Just around integration. Okay. Vinay, maybe I'll punt that to you for just a follow-up. Is that kind of aligned with what you're hearing from customers? Where's the big where's the biggest concern that maybe you and Nikolai are hearing from customers today around the move?
So no, that's a surprise. Maybe not be. I mean, I'm thinking that's a proxy for custom work, maybe. Because if you are
Hmm.
doing if you're talking about data integration, that shouldn't change. Data coming to Dataverse doesn't matter where it's coming. I mean, your entities might change, but overall, the process shouldn't change. But if it is about your you have done some custom work in other apps that kind of use APIs to do things in Dynamics marketing or customer insight. Now that will change because the same API is not available for real time. The difference is, and some of them are not actually available as an API. So I'm just guessing here. Probably that's the worry integration.
Okay. Okay. Let me
Yeah,
jump
same.
back. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Nikolai,
yes,
go ahead.
same. I was thinking about the Dataverse is the point of the integration for the data flow. Like contacts and leads stays the same if it's like related to their personal information, or if we are talking about APIs, then yes, that is needs to be considered specifically for customers that are creating the segment from third-party systems to outbound marketing. And if they want to continue to utilize the same approach, they need to switch from API outbound.
Okay. Okay. Let me jump back into the questions. The next one I have is around consent. So it says, what happens to existing consent once I move to the new feature? So I'm guessing they mean the new kind of content or consent model utilized in real time. Caroline, Tyler, one of you want to take that one?
I can start with consent and then Caroline fill in. So Microsoft provides out of the box migration capabilities for the native, what we would call the global unsubscribe field on the contact record entity. So there's the ability to migrate that consent into a real-time compliance profile to specific purpose, to either opt in or opt out individuals. Also, that native integration tool will migrate marketing lists into topical consent for compliance profiles that you have built out. So there is definitely the native way to migrate consent. Now, if you're a more complex organization that has built custom sort of opt-out fields, or you've done any customizations around how outbound consent functioned, you have the option of creating a Power Automate flow to migrate that consent for you and map it to the real-time equivalents. Or you could create, you can extract that data, transform it, and then import it into the real-time, essentially the real-time consent table and align everything to the specific purposes or topics that you're using go forward.
The only thing that I would add to that is that if you're using kind of a basic consent model where you're just looking at like global opt-in, opt-out, and I would say Microsoft definitely provides you the tools to easily transition. If you have had to do that custom work, I would say the consent model within real time does offer a lot of flexibility where outbound was very rigid. And once you had that global opt-out, it was kind of that person was out when you had to find workarounds to get them back into your segments or into the audiences that you were curating. Real-time marketing allows you to have restrictive consent models, non-restrictive. So it offers flexibility there. And so when you're thinking about consent and if you do have a complex model within outbound, I would definitely have a little bit thought and just strategy behind moving to the new consent model, because this is an area that I could see it taking time with your transition, unlike emails, forms, etc.
Yeah, especially if it's a time where you have to revisit conversations with legal
Yep.
to review the new capabilities that are available. You know, Microsoft now allows within the consent model to give clients, subscribers, customers, prospects the option to not be tracked in the way that they engage with your communications. That wasn't available in Outbound, but it's something that is more in line with GDPR. So, you know, if it is a time where you're going to revisit conversations with legal, you'd want to start this potentially as soon as possible. With our clients that we've worked with in the migration, we've done both the easy migration, the more complex migration. You can achieve it, but it is a conversation that you want to get started earlier.
It's funny you mentioned the different types of models, Caroline, because I know this was a challenge for some clients, especially those that are working in the same environment but under multiple brands, right? And so
Yeah.
there were a lot of workarounds. I know that, the teams needed to either additional configuration that they needed to add on to their contact table or the like. And so being able to move to this model gives you a lot more flexibility, not just in the level of consent that you're getting, so that helps with certain geos, but even for those different brands. So if they're opting out of one brand, it's not necessarily affecting the other lines of business.
Yeah, yeah, especially if you're capturing consent with within like forms and doing opt-ins. I know that I had several clients when they were in Outbound and they had to have complex workarounds and if-then logic built into their Outbound forms where real time, because there is that flexibility, there's just an ease nest of kind of transitioning there. So, yeah.
Nice. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. We've been talking about, like I said, assets. We've talked a bit about data, even events. All of that is kind of user facing or end user facing. One of the questions that came in was, I know I need to move email segments, etc. Any admin things that I need to do for real time? Who wants to take that one? Maybe Tyler or Caroline?
Yep, I can start and then Tyler, if you want to fill in. Any admin things. So as Vinay mentioned earlier, they're within the settings area, work area of the marketing application. There are some things that are specific to Outbound, and then there are things specific to real time. I would say, other than like just moving over your assets, like your email templates, your form templates, your segments, for admin, there is an area of audience configuration that if you are using different email addresses within Outbound for like that are based on your contact or your lead, you would need to set those up. Trying to think of anything additionally for forms within real-time forms, there is a new form settings area that is connected to when you're creating your forms. You have contact and lead matching strategies, you have your field mappings. So I know that's getting a little bit into the weeds, but those are definitely admin things to be on the lookout for as you are transitioning to real time.
Yeah, and also quiet time is another option in real
Yeah.
time that you didn't have in Outbound, and you had to figure out how to handle. Quiet time is how you can set rules around when emails can be sent, and you can apply them at the email level within the journey versus at the journey level. So a lot of flexibility there. You can have multiple quiet times applied to emails within the same journey. Like you only want emails sent Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, no weekends, or just excluding weekends. Especially for your nurtures. We find that often a really great item. And then some other things that you set up inside of the settings area. Brand profiles are set up there. The compliance settings are there. There, and then there are a couple of other real-time specific ones as well.
I was gonna say feature switches is I know that there are Outbound feature switches that you need to toggle on. I would say that's primarily used for real time. So when new real-time features come available, you'll have the ability to turn those on or off. So definitely as releases come and new features start becoming available, be just aware of that area, because if you are seeing something in the release plan but not seeing it in your environment, it's probably tied to that feature switch where you need to go and toggle it on.
Did you mention frequency capping, Tyler? I know you
I
mentioned
knew there was
the,
another one.
yeah.
I'm like thinking through in my head,
I was
I'm
like,
missing
okay, there's
one.
quiet time, there's, yeah.
Yeah, frequency capping is, I think that might be the last one that's very specific to real time, is the frequency capping as well, which allows you to set limitations for the number of emails that can be sent within a time period to contacts or leads.
Okay. Okay, the next question is around reporting. So the question is, how does this affect reporting? Will I lose outbound insights in my Power BI report? So a little bit adjacent to CIJ. Who
Yeah,
wants to take that one?
I can take this question. So the main difference between outbound marketing and real-time marketing in terms of the reporting is the capability and the source of the analytics information. So if in outbound marketing you had a chance to do the export to the Azure Blob storages and then do whatever you want with these data from your own sources. In the real-time marketing, as of today, there is only one way to connect to the interaction data is using the Fabric connection to the customer journey analytics piece. But if you have a question like what I need to do with an existing report and once the outbound marketing is going to be deprecated, and definitely the analytics will not be generated through their Azure Blob storages. So we have you covered here. Outbound marketing analytics piece also for some of the tenants it's already migrated but we are doing the work to migrate to the Fabric. Even the outbound marketing analytics on the same tables on the same format that real-time marketing generates those analytics pieces. So in this case, you will need to just to change the connection to your Power BI reports from your own data sources where you store the blob storages to the Fabric serverless connection. And it should work perfectly because the data schema format is going to be the same for historical data and for the new data that is generated on the real-time marketing.
Okay. Okay, I think we've got a few more questions here. This one's on security. Any security rule considerations when it comes to real time? Who wants to take that one?
I would say so within the real-time marketing work area, the real-time has new tables that you would need to give those privileges to. So Microsoft has out-of-the-box marketing roles that they will consistently update for every release. So you don't have an issue if you're using those. If you are using custom security roles or if you've built custom security roles tied to marketing, I know that we do that for a lot of our clients. You will just have to keep an eye on that as you are transitioning to give those additional privileges to those real-time marketing tables like email, journey. There are several that you will need to. And I believe Microsoft has documentation on kind of what the marketing out of the box rules, the privileges that they have, and kind of the create, write, delete, update privileges that are tied to that table that you could use to kind of have a comparison look as you are updating those roles.
Yeah, and we heavily recommend starting work on those role enhancements in your lower environments and testing now so that there might be some unique thing how your business operates and you don't wanna miss that. So starting to work on those security roles is something that you would do sooner rather than later, especially if you're using custom roles.
Yep. Yep. And then as Tyler mentioned, definitely test those roles after you have them completed, just to make sure there weren't any missing pribs that you forgot about.
And specifically do it when you have the business unit scope enabled, because some roles might have a user level, business unit level, and organizational level. And if you have a business unit scope enabled, there might be some misunderstanding between the users. Okay, I'm owning these, but I still don't have access. Why? Or vice versa. I should not have access, but I have access is because of the business unit scope.
I feel like we could do a whole other call on business units coding. No, but that's a really good call out. And look, shameless plug because I know that Tyler and Caroline are not going to do this, but this session in particular around permissions in CI journeys, they're actually presenting at DynamicsCon here in May. So if you are joining us in Chicago, you should definitely check out that session. Okay. The next one, this one's a little more technical. It says we use custom forms for our contacts. So I think that may mean like the contact table. How will real time affect this?
Yeah, so there are two things that are unique to real time. One is the communications tab, which is where you can visualize consent on the contact or lead, table form, entity form, however you want to talk about it. So that is a control that you can add. And Microsoft has documentation on that. I don't know if we have that queued up or not, but we can definitely share that. And then also the second thing is there is an update that you'll have to run to your timeline to get the timeline to show real-time interactions as well. And Microsoft also has documentation on that. So they've really thought about customers that are utilizing those custom forms to manage their contact or leads and how you can update them to bring them in alignment with real-time data, such as the timeline data as well as the consent data.
Yep. I know that within Outbound, you guys are probably familiar with the Insights tab. Depending on when the copy of like the default contact form happened, you may have to do additional configuration to get real-time insights to show as well. That does require a little bit more configuration to development where it requires you to go into XML code and do kind of a copy and paste. I think that there's also Microsoft documentation, but that's the only additional thing that I would add to what Tyler has mentioned. If you are not seeing real-time insights, there's probably just additional configuration that you would have to do that it's not as seamless as the timeline control and the communication tab.
Yeah, I will say the real-time insights are definitely a level up from Outbound.
Yeah.
They provide roll-up insights at the email, the form level, if you're using any other of the channels, and in the future, website and events will come to those insights. And it's really nice to go to a contact record and see how often they are opening or clicking in emails in aggregate. That's been something that a lot of our clients have been excited by with the new insights that are provided.
All right, there's one more question, but before I do that, I'm going to launch our last poll. So we've talked a little bit about worries, but we want to hear about what you're most excited about when it comes to the new features in real-time journeys. So is it around AI? Is it triggers, which we talked a bit about earlier, around some additional segmentation or email personalization? That's a big one that's come up a lot. What are you most excited about? There's got to be something. Oh my goodness. There we go. All right. All right. I see some coming in for triggers. What else? We'll give you another couple of seconds. All right. I think triggers wins by default. Okay. We've got one more question here. And it says, this is a lot. So where do I begin? So this may be good for the person earlier on the call that mentioned that they're not even sure where to begin here. So who wants to start that one off?
I can start it off. I know that Microsoft has been working, Vinay has been leading the effort to make sure that there's a lot of documentation about the transition from outbound to real time. And that's available. And I think we have the link to queue up where that documentation lives. As well as I know that for our clients and customers that we work with, as well as just supporting a lot of customers in this transition, we've kind of written a play-by-play guide of like where to start. Like we've talked about during this call, have some of these conversations earlier. These are quick wins that you can have, and that's something that's also available that I think that will queue up at the end of the webinar.
Yeah, good timing. I'm going to actually post those now. So we've got a slew of resources available to you, both from our friends at Microsoft as well as Coffee and Dunn. Definitely check those out. So any FAQs, even those that we didn't cover here today. We've got a checklist that's available to you. There are some release notes. As well as a playbook and some information on the transition overview from Microsoft as well. So lots of really good resources. Definitely check those out. I think those are all of the questions that we got. So I know we've got just under 10 minutes or so. Vinay, Nikolai, not to put you on the spot, but any like great features that you're really excited about on the roadmap? I'd love to hear, obviously, from the Coffee and Done team as well, but any notable features worth mentioning?
It's like asking which
I
child is
know.
favorite.
I love all my children the same. I
No,
know, I know, I
just
know, I
kidding. Yeah,
know.
no, it's good. We are all excited, and if you keep an eye on the what's new page in our doc, you'll see every month we keep adding something new. So what's coming ahead? A couple of few things I'm personally excited about are like in real-time journey. The journey can now will be able to pause and resume them. So that should add a lot more flexibility and take care of scenarios where you need to pause your marketing campaign because of something unknown, like your business has an issue or something out of your control. Natural disasters occur, and you don't want to be sending solicitations messages at that point, kind of a thing. So that's one. Another one coming in quiet time that Tyler mentioned earlier, that we are working to make it available even so you can take care of the quiet time in time zone of the recipient. So it's not your business hours only, but also recipient. So do not send text during people's dinner time or sleep times. And that may happen in a country like large like US and other places. So those are a couple of things. And of course, as Carolyn was mentioning earlier, all the event management functions, we are working really hard, doubling down on making sure everything that we are noticing people are kind of needing, we are filling up all those gaps in event management for real time very quickly. So those are my few favorite ones.
Yeah, I would say like the also most weighted is the general availability for the custom fields on the form that also come in. This was their most requested gap between outbound marketing and real-time marketing. But instead of looking to the future, I would come back and share my loved ones that are already available. Some of them were already mentioned during this call is multi-segmentation usage in the journey that went live with a lot of respect from the customers that they were waiting for this. Also, the export segmentation to the Excel files. So that was also being moved and available on the program with no huge announcement, but this was really well taken by customers. Yeah, that was like two most like for the past few. That is it.
Uh, I would say two favorite real-time features that I love. One of them hit, I believe, in the December release. So a lot of my outbound customers that used forms and they created contacts and leads. There was a bit of a feature gap where within real time you could only create contacts or leads. Microsoft came out with a release in December that now I feel like they added a level up. You can create contacts and leads together, but you can also choose if you want to update contact records or create new contact records. So I would definitely say that was a miss on the outbound side that they have build on the real-time side and made it just exceptionally better. The other area that I love about real-time, I would say, are triggers. Triggers are just so versatile. You can start your journeys with them. You can daisy chain your campaigns together. Event communications have out-of-the-box triggers that definitely allows you to streamline your event communications. So I would say those are the two areas that I just love about real-time.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for some of the enhancements to segmentation that's on the roadmap. One of them just released this month, where you can now on demand refresh a segment if it hasn't been refreshed in the last 30 minutes. So that's really exciting, especially for those of us that build segments to test out to see if the correct audience is there. You don't have to wait anymore. You can sort of push it to the front of the line. That's a really exciting feature, as well as I know there's a lot of other work going on with segmentation. And then I really do go back to just like the analytics that are available in emails. That really has been improved significantly over the last couple of quarters. There's heat mapping now, there's device analytics. All of those things have gotten added. So I do think that the analytics that real-time provides, there's now exit analytics on journeys about when customers exited. So how many moved forward, how many people left based on exit criteria or the way that you've structured the journey. I really do think that the team at Microsoft's doing a really great job to deliver the metrics that are going to help customers create more in tune with where people are in their journey, their buying journey. You can create that unique experience, and they're continuing to level up the analytics that are available to you to create that unique experience.
Awesome. Well, I know we only have a couple of minutes left, but I'll post it once again. Like I said, if for some reason we didn't get to your question today, please feel free to reach out. That's at hello@coffee-done.com. I want to thank Vinay and Nikolai, and obviously our experts, Caroline and Tyler, for joining us today. Lots of really good stuff that we're going to continue to hear about as we get closer and closer to that June 30th deadline. But thanks again, everyone, for joining, and have a great day.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.